All right, so imagine this. An AI, and it's asked a question, but instead of just spitting out the first answer it comes up with, it kind of stops and thinks about it.
Yeah,
Like really thinks it over, like it's got this little team of experts in its head bouncing ideas around.
exactly. That's a really good way to put it, actually. And that's pretty much what we're looking at today. Uh, Contrastive Augmented Generation, or CAG for short.
Catchy, right?
Well, it's certainly making waves in the AI world because, we're really trying to push AI to be more than just a fancy autocomplete. We want it to be reliable, accurate, helpful,
Trustworthy, right?
yeah, trustworthy.
And this CAG thing, it's all about building that trust. So for everyone listening, we're going to break it all down, what CAG is, how it works, why it matters. No jargon, I promise. Then we'll get into some really cool potential uses for this tech,
Mhm.
like think education, research, even conflict resolution.
Because as impressive as AI is these days, let's be real, it can still trip up, Sometimes it just makes stuff up, those AI hallucinations everyone's talking about. And that's not exactly reassuring if we're going to start relying on AI for things like, I don't know, legal advice or medical diagnoses.
Yeah, an AI telling you the wrong dose of medicine is not a good time. And that's where CAG comes in. It's like giving AI a safety net, a way to double-check its work.
And the really neat thing is how it does that. Think about it. If you're struggling with a tough decision, you probably don't just go with your first gut reaction, right? You might talk it over with friends, get different opinions, but that's kind of what CAG does for AI.
It gives it a built-in brainstorming session.
Exactly. Instead of just one viewpoint, it's considering multiple angles before giving you an answer.
So walk me through this. How does it actually work? Does the AI just, like, conjure up a bunch of random answers and hope for the best?
Not quite. Though the first step is actually pretty similar to how most AI works now. You give it a question, a prompt, anything from what's the meaning of life to summarize this research paper.
Okay, pretty standard stuff so far.
Right. But here's where things get interesting. Instead of stopping at one answer, a CAG system will generate several different responses. Maybe three, maybe five, kind of depends on the task. And these aren't just slight variations either, they could be totally different approaches to answering the question.
So, like, if I ask about, say, the benefits of exercise, one answer might be all about physical health, another might focus on mental well-being, and another might give me, like, a historical overview of exercise trends.
Exactly. It's like the AI is exploring a whole range of possibilities right from the start.
Okay, so it's got this little collection of potential answers. Then what?
Then it gets down to business. This is the contrastive part of CAG. The AI has to figure out which of these answers is the best one. And to do that, it basically uses a scoring system. It's looking for things like accuracy, completeness, clarity.
So it's like an internal grading system for the AI's own work.
Precisely. And this isn't just some random score either. Sometimes it uses what's called a contrastive learning model, which is basically another AI that's been trained to recognize what makes a good answer stand out.
So the AI is basically double-checking itself. Like, okay, I came up with these answers, but which one actually holds up?
Exactly. And this process, this comparing and contrasting, helps the AI learn over time too. It gets better at recognizing the qualities of a good answer, so the more it uses CAG, the more reliable it becomes.
Okay, so after all that grading, it picks a winner. Does it ever try to, like, combine the best parts of different answers, or is it always just choosing one?
Well, sometimes it can do that, yeah. Try to merge good ideas from different answers, but honestly, that gets pretty complicated. The simplest approach and the most common one is just to pick the top scoring answer. It's like saying, okay, out of all the essays I wrote, this one's the A+ day.
Makes sense. So by the time you, the user, actually see an answer, it's already gone through this whole internal vetting process.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's even one more step that can sometimes happen, kind of like a final quality check. It's called a self-consistency check. Basically, the AI looks at all the answers it generated and sees if there are any common themes or pieces of information that keep popping up.
So if, like, 4 out of 5 answers all mention the same important detail, that gives the AI more confidence that that detail is accurate.
Right. It's like the AI is building a consensus within itself, and this can dramatically improve accuracy. There was a study on using self-consistency for math problems, and it actually reduced the error rate from like 32% down to almost zero.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. Just shows the power of having the AI double-check its own work. And there's another interesting technique that builds on this multi-perspective idea. It's called multi-expert prompting.
Okay, that sounds intense. What's that all about?
So with multi-expert prompting, the AI is basically given different roles to play, Like, imagine prompting it to be an optimist, a pessimist, and a realist all at the same time.
So it's like having a little debate team inside the AI's brain.
Exactly. And each expert generates a response from their own point of view. Then the AI compares and contrasts these viewpoints, trying to find common ground and create a well-rounded answer that takes all those perspectives into account.
So if I'm understanding this right, CAG is basically all about the AI generating multiple answers and then using this compare and contrast routine to pick the best one, or at least the most reliable one.
You got it. It's like that saying, measure twice, cut once.
Hmm.
By the time you see the final answer, it's been carefully thought through, evaluated, and chosen from several different possibilities.
Okay, so you got a good handle on how CAG works. But now the big question. Why should we care? What's so great about this compared to how AI usually does things?
Well, the most obvious benefit is that it makes AI way more accurate and truthful. Think about it. If an AI is only generating one answer, there's a good chance it could just be wrong, right? But with CAG, because it's generating multiple options and then comparing them, it has a way to catch those mistakes and prioritize the most accurate information.
So it's like a built-in fact checker.
Exactly. And this directly addresses that whole AI hallucination problem we talked about. The AI is less likely to just make stuff up because it's cross-referencing its own ideas.
And that has to be a huge relief for anyone who's worried about AI giving out, misinformation,
Yeah.
especially as we start using AI for more and more important things.
Right. And there's actually been a lot of research showing that these multi-draft techniques really do improve AI's truthfulness. Like, they've tested it on tasks that are specifically designed to see how well AI can handle facts, and CAG consistently performs better.
So it's not just a theory, it actually works. What else does CAG do well?
Well, it also tends to produce much more comprehensive answers. Because it's generating different perspectives, the final answer is usually more well-rounded. It covers more ground.
So instead of getting a simple one-sentence answer, you might get something that really digs into the different aspects of the topic.
Right. Like, think about our bike lane example from earlier. A traditional AI might just say, bike lanes reduce traffic congestion, which is true, but it's not the whole story. A CAG system, on the other hand, might give you an answer that talks about the environmental benefits, the impact on local businesses, the safety considerations, the whole picture.
So it's giving you a more nuanced, informed answer,
Mm-hmm.
which is definitely what you want if you rely on AI for, important decisions.
Absolutely. And this multi-perspective approach also has another really important benefit. It can help reduce bias in AI outputs.
Okay, that's huge. We all know that AI can sometimes reflect the biases that are present in the data it's trained on. How does CAG help with that?
Well, because it's generating multiple responses, it's less likely to get stuck in a single, potentially biased viewpoint. It's forced to consider different angles, even ones that might challenge its initial assumptions.
So it's like it's doing its own internal bias check.
Exactly. And while CAG isn't a perfect solution to the problem of AI bias, it's a really promising step in the right direction. And remember that self-consistency check we talked about? Well, that also helps make AI more reliable, especially for tasks that involve complex reasoning.
Because if the AI keeps coming up with the same answer, even when it's trying out different approaches, that's a good sign that it's probably on the right track.
Exactly. It reduces the chance of random errors or inconsistencies. And here's another interesting thing about CAG. It mostly relies on the knowledge that's already inside the AI model itself. It doesn't always have to go out and search external databases or the internet for every question.
So it's more self-contained, which could be really useful in situations where you don't have a good internet connection or where you need to keep information secure.
Exactly. And because it's not constantly pulling in new data, it's also less vulnerable to inaccuracies or outdated information that might be floating around online. Of course, there are limits to what an AI can do based on what it was trained on, but CAG makes the most of that existing knowledge.
Makes sense. So overall, it sounds like CAG has a lot of advantages over more traditional AI methods. And I've got to say, the results seem to back that up.
Oh, definitely. Techniques that use this multi-draft contrastive approach have been performing really well on all sorts of AI benchmarks and tests. They're showing higher accuracy, fewer errors, better summaries. Across the board, CAG is leading to better performance.
So the evidence is there. Now, I know that generating all those extra answers has to take more processing power, right?
Mm.
Does that slow things down?
It can, yeah. But honestly, not by much. The time difference is usually pretty negligible for the user, especially with all the optimizations and parallel processing that's happening behind the scenes. And most people would agree that a tiny bit of extra processing time is a small price to pay for a much more reliable and comprehensive answer. And as AI tech keeps improving, that processing time is only going to get shorter and shorter.
Yeah, totally worth the trade-off. Okay, so CAG sounds pretty awesome. But let's talk about what this actually means in the real world. How is this tech being used, or how could it be used in the future? Give me some concrete examples.
All right, so let's start with education. Imagine you have an AI tutor that's trying to explain a difficult concept to a student. Well, instead of just giving one explanation, a CAG system could generate several different ones. Maybe one that's really technical, one that uses simpler language, maybe even one that uses a real-world analogy.
So it's like the AI is trying out different teaching styles to see what works best for that particular student.
Exactly. And it can even adapt to the student's learning style over time, choosing explanations that are more likely to click.
That's so cool. Personalized learning powered by AI.
Right. And think about homework help. A CAG-powered AI could solve a math problem in multiple ways, showing all the steps for each method, and then it could compare the answers to make sure they're all consistent. If one method gives a different result, it knows to flag that as a potential error. And as we talked about before, using self-consistency for math problems can almost eliminate errors entirely.
That's amazing. So it's not just about getting the right answer. It's about really understanding the process and avoiding those careless mistakes. And I could see this being really useful for things like personalized learning plans, too.
Definitely. The AI could generate different learning paths for different students based on their strengths, weaknesses, and interests. It could even adjust the difficulty level as the student progresses.
So in the world of education, CAG could really help create AI systems that are more than just information dispensers. They could be true learning partners, providing personalized support and guidance.
Exactly. And the same principles apply to research and knowledge work. Think about how much time researchers spend just reading and summarizing papers. Well, a CAG system could help automate a lot of that.
Oh yeah, that would be a lifesaver. How would it work?
So the AI could generate multiple summaries of a research paper, each with a different focus. Maybe a short abstract, a longer summary, one that highlights the methodology, another that focuses on the findings. And then, by comparing those summaries, it can make sure it hasn't missed any crucial information.
So it's like having an AI research assistant that can synthesize information from different angles and give you a really comprehensive overview.
Exactly. And this could also be used for things like literature reviews and report writing. Imagine an AI that can gather information from various sources and then generate multiple drafts of a report, each emphasizing a different aspect of the topic.
That would be incredible, especially for complex topics where you really need to consider different perspectives.
Right. And in fields like medicine and law, where accuracy is so critical, a CAG-based AI could be a game changer. It could help doctors diagnose patients by ruling out options that don't fit the data, or it could help lawyers draft contracts by considering multiple interpretations of each clause.
So in all sorts of professional settings, CAG could help make AI a more reliable and insightful partner, providing information and analysis that people can trust. But what about creative fields like writing? Can CAG be useful there too?
You bet. Even though CAG is all about accuracy and reliability, it can actually be a really valuable tool for creative writing. Think about brainstorming story ideas, for example. Instead of getting just one suggestion from an AI, a CAG system could give you several different plot ideas, each with its own unique twist.
So it's like having a brainstorming partner that can come up with all sorts of creative possibilities.
Exactly. And then during the actual writing process, if you get stuck on something, like how to end a scene or develop a character, the AI could generate multiple options for you to choose from.
So it's like having an AI writing partner and an editor all rolled into one. And I could see this being really useful for poetry and songwriting too, where you need to think about things like rhyme and rhythm.
Absolutely. The AI could generate multiple lines that fit the specific requirements of the poem or song while still capturing the overall tone and meaning. And for things like marketing copy and social media posts, CAG could help craft the most effective and engaging messages.
So even though it's built on these principles of accuracy and reliability, CAG can actually enhance creativity by giving writers more options and helping them refine their ideas.
That's a great way to put it. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about policy analysis and decision support. This is an area where considering multiple perspectives is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, you don't want to make important policy decisions based on a single, potentially biased viewpoint.
Exactly. And that's where CAG can really shine. Imagine using an AI to help analyze the potential impact of a new law or regulation. A CAG system could generate different analyses, each reflecting the concerns and priorities of different stakeholders, like businesses, environmental groups, or community members.
So instead of getting a one-sided analysis, policymakers would get a much more holistic view of the potential consequences.
Right. And this could also be used for things like scenario planning, where the AI generates different possible future scenarios based on different policy choices.
So it's helping policymakers think through the long-term implications of their decisions, which is so important.
It is. And the same approach could be used for business strategy, too. An AI could help companies weigh different factors like market trends, competition, and internal resources to make more informed decisions.
So in all these cases, CAG is basically helping people make better decisions by making sure they're considering all the relevant angles.
Exactly. And now for something really fascinating: conflict resolution and mediation. This might seem like a very human-centric area, but CAG actually has a lot to offer here, too.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. At its core, conflict resolution is all about understanding different perspectives and finding common ground. And that's exactly what CAG does. It could be used to help mediate disputes by generating summaries of each side's position and then suggesting potential compromise solutions.
So it's like having an AI mediator that can help people see things from each other's point of view and come up with creative solutions.
Exactly. And some AI systems are already being developed with this in mind. They're designed to present multiple viewpoints in a clear and unbiased way to help people understand each other better and build trust.
That's amazing. So even in areas where we might not expect AI to be helpful, like conflict resolution, CAG could actually play a really valuable role.
It could. And that really speaks to the power of this core idea: generating and evaluating multiple possibilities. It has the potential to transform so many aspects of our lives.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into contrastive augmented generation. But for anyone who's just tuning in, what's the key takeaway? What's the one thing you want people to remember about CAG?
The most important thing to remember is that CAG gives AI a kind of internal dialogue, a way to critically evaluate its own ideas. And that leads to more accurate, comprehensive, and trustworthy outputs, no matter what the task is.
And that's really crucial as we start incorporating AI into more and more aspects of our lives. We need to be able to trust that it's giving us reliable information and guidance.
Absolutely. And CAG is a major step in that direction. It's all about making AI more dependable, more robust, and ultimately more useful for us humans.
And it's kind of cool to think that even now, when we interact with AI systems, they might be using techniques like COG behind the scenes, making sure they're giving us the best possible answers.
It is. And as you follow developments in AI, keep an eye out for this multi-perspective approach. It's going to have a big impact, not just in text generation, but in other areas like image generation and even code generation.
It really is fascinating stuff. And maybe next time we're struggling with a tough decision, we can all try to channel our inner CAG and consider different options before jumping to conclusions.
Ah, I love that. And as AI keeps advancing, we'll probably see CAG combined with other cutting-edge techniques to create even more powerful and sophisticated systems. Systems that can handle complexity and ambiguity with a level of grace and intelligence that we can only dream of right now.
Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into contrastive augmented generation. I hope you, our listener, found this exploration insightful and maybe even a little bit mind-blowing. It's a really exciting time to be following the world of AI.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. And to everyone listening, stay curious and keep exploring the amazing possibilities of technology.
Until next time, this is your host, signing off.